read any reading from the credit one, like the PDF that you have sent, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I read. I read the PDF titled "Making India: Colonialism, National Culture, and Afterlife of Indian Authority."
No, for this, I had sent you a working paper. It's Religions and Development Working Paper 10, which has been published from University of Birmingham.
Oh, sorry, sir. I thought that we had to read one from the five different like excerpts that you have sent. So I
Okay.
read this one. I didn't read that one.
Yeah. So, and like I have sent you two readings for this. One is this Religion and Development Working Paper number 10, and then at the end you have a very important book which is written by David Koch, The Brahmo Samaj and the Shaping of Modern Mind. Okay, modern Indian mind. So both of these are meant for uh, uh, this current topic. Okay, clear?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir.
So yeah. So before I start, my whiteboard is not working again because it's saying that you are not logged in, so you cannot use whiteboard. What to do? So today we are going to do another aspect of the historical genesis of modern India, and that is how socio-religious organizations helped to shape the modern aspects of Indian nation or Indian mind or modern aspects of Indian society. Now, again, there is a very peculiar thing about socio-religious organizations and the role they play as far as the historical trajectory of modern India is concerned. One of the most important is that socio-religious organizations have religion at their center. Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Am I presenting something? Yeah. Let me
No,
just,
sir. Now it is seen.
now you can see. Yeah.
Sorry, sir. Have you started the recording?
Yeah. So they have religion at the center. Can you see what I am writing?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Everybody can
sir.
see?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one of the most peculiar aspects of socio-religious movements is that they have religion at the center of their articulation of everything that they want to do. Whether they want to read religion or read religion, whether they want to read or read society, whether they want to change society, whether they want to reform society, whether they want to bring in a revolution, religion is the major pivot as far as socio-religious organizations are concerned. And another name for socio-religious organizations is faith-based organizations. Now, we all know that the Macaulays Minutes put Europe and India as opposite to each other. And Europe, as far as Macaulays Minutes is concerned, stands for secular modernity, while as India or British India stands for Oriental mysticism. Okay, stands for something which is neither secular nor modern, and because of it being articulated in a way in which it is more mystic and more spiritual, there is always a negative portrayal of everything that is India. Okay. Now, when you are putting these two cultures as opposite to each other, what happened is that the moment Indians got to know about things Western ideals, about Western education, about Western liberal ideals, through the mediums of education, they started to ask themselves that is it that there is nothing in the Indian culture, there is nothing that the Indian tradition can offer which could be considered of equal value or more value than what the West is offering. Okay? Can't we, even if there are problems, even if what the West is saying may be partly true, can't we figure out solutions within to the problems that the West is making as India's weakness? समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
So this
Yes,
dialectic
sir.
between secular modernity on one hand and the portrayal of Indian tradition on the other gave rise to multiple responses. Okay, you have multiple responses, and majority of these responses are in the form of socio-religious movements. But before we go into socio-religious movements, what we'll be doing is that we'll be trying to figure out what were the responses one by one. Are you getting it? How were these responses carved out? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Number one, let's go to the first response. Okay. So when you encounter something new, what can be the first response? Like two responses are like known to everyone. Like whenever you encounter something new, there's a response. There's a very common response. Yeah.
So the first can be that whatever you think is new, you automatically kind of reject it because you see it as a threat to whatever you hold dear to you.
Okay. So
And the other one is that you get awed by the new thing probably, and then you start rejecting everything that is Indian in this instance.
okay. Yeah. So let's take the point number one as complete acceptance of West. Okay, this was one of the responses, one of the early responses to uh, what we call as the British rule. Complete acceptance of the West, and it was in the form of what we commonly call as Young Bengal movement. We'll be going into it later. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Then we go to the other shade. Okay, but here you have multiple responses within this shade of rejection. Like here you have responses where the reformers or the socio-religious movement founders of socio-religious movements, they agree to something that the West says but reject something altogether, and it gradually goes on to something which is as radical as you do not accept anything that the West is saying. Let's start with the first one. Okay, acceptance of the West but a need for reform within. Okay, so this is Ram Mohan Roy and Samaj. So what Brahmo Samaj and its founder Ram Mohan Roy tried to argue is that there is something that the West is offering. Okay, and it holds some value. It's not that it is completely bullshit or it has no value or it is just something to be trashed. But at the same time, we have to figure out that there is something which we need to do ourselves as well. Okay, because whatever the West is saying is because of certain inconsistencies within the Indian tradition itself, and that is one of the fundamental reasons that we have to go for religious reform within ourselves. We have to reform the religion. We have to reform Hindu religion. Okay, that is the reason that he founded what we call as Brahmo Samaj. And within Brahmo Samaj, what Ram Mohan Roy first tried to do is, for example, when the Britishers were going against the practice of sati, saying that it is inhuman or it's against the basic right to life, liberal right to life. So what Ram Mohan Roy tried to do is, like, he tried to argue. He argues that what the Britishers are saying is right, but we don't need to uphold the liberal values in order to ban sati. But we need to figure out a rational deliberative mechanism within the Indian tradition itself, within the Indian Upanishads and Vedas, and reread them so that we can figure out that sati is not practicable. Sati is non-Hindu. It is not something that we should be practicing, and it has come down to us because of certain problems or because of certain misinterpretations rather than it being in the Indian tradition itself. Okay, so Ram Mohan Roy wrote a series of dialogues between what he calls as the proponent of sati and the opponent of sati, and nowhere in those dialogues is he using liberalism or any Western standpoint to prove the point that sati has to be banned. Rather, he is using Manusmriti, he is using Upanishads to figure out that sati is to be banned and sati is inhuman. Is it clear?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is a kind of response where you get impetus from the West because of Western education that something is wrong. But in order to right that wrong, you don't go to the West. Rather, you think that you have to go back to your tradition. You have to go back to your past and figure out that there is something wrong, and this wrong is not just there because the tradition has it, but because the interpretation of tradition has brought it. So you do another hermeneutic exercise, you do another exercise of interpretations to make possible the view that no, we can figure out, we can bring reform within ourselves without uh, holding uh, the Western standpoint as dear. समझ में आया ये?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Then there was a third one. Can anybody tell me what can this be? क्योंकि ब्रह्मो समाज तो मैंने बता दिया. Can anybody among you guess what can this be?
Sir, like the response or
Yeah, what can the response be? The
sir,
third.
what about just transformation within, like not accepting what the West is saying, but trying to transform what we already have, trying to reformulate tradition and
So Ram Mohan Rai is trying to do that. Like Ram Mohan Roy is a textbook case of trying to reform religion. But then there's another one, very commonly known to, I guess, each one of us. Dayanand Saraswati was its champion.
Sir, I read the reading, and I think the second one can be a group of Indians accepted the superiority of Western culture, and they tried to bring a reform too, and they wanted to save the spread of Indian tradition.
But we already did the second one. We are going to the third one.
The third one.
Sir, Arya Samaj.
Yeah, Arya Samaj. So, what is their philosophy? How did they respond to the West?
So they
Sir,
completely
yeah, Bhakti, go on.
They completely denied the Western ideas, right? They were very firm on to their own original, whatever the Indian ideas was.
Yeah, they considered the they considered the Vedas and everything to be infallible.
Okay. Anyone else?
Sir, one of the options was that they accepted, they recognized that something should be changed, but
Yes.
they also say that we can bring this change by referring to the Indian ancient system.
Yeah. All of you are correct. So the third is what I here call as, in the reading it is written as aggressive cultural nationalism. Okay. But I call it aggressive cultural. Okay. So what they said is that maybe what the West is trying to bring in is something good. It's not bad. But at the same time, it cannot portray India and its past in this dialectic in terms of negativity only. Because there is something that the Indian past is having to offer which is of equal value. So, one of the things that they try to do is they try to see India's past as a parallel to the West. समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
So they are not denouncing the West in toto. No. Rather, they are saying that if the West is there, we also have something to offer. Okay? Without changing it. We don't need to change it. And that is how they started talking about what we call as Greater India. And Dayanand gave the call. So the solution to the problem for cultural traditionalists is that whatever came in between the great past of India and its today is to be negated. Okay? And if India wants to see itself, okay, in a more powerful and in a more spiritual light, okay, then it needs to go back to the Vedas. There is no other way. Anything that comes in between Vedas and today's Hindu society is going to be repudiated in this group and by this group of socio-religious organizations. समझ में आ रहा है?
Yes, sir.
Anything that comes between after Vedas and before the time when Dayanand Saraswati gave the call for Arya Samaj. Anything that comes in between, no. The Vedas, according to them, are infallible. The Arya Samajists consider Vedas infallible, okay? Argue about monotheism, okay? And make a point that this is going to be the railing point. Okay, so made a point that Vedas and a call back to the Vedas is going to be a rallying point to collectivize already stratified Hindus. Okay, so this Arya Samaj was not just a socio-religious organization, but while harping on religion or while harping on a particular interpretation of Hindu religion, they tried to gather resources for arousing a particular kind of national consciousness, okay, which had its standpoint the greater India, the India where the Vedic studies and the Vedas were of prominent importance rather than anything else. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
so
sir.
we have Anand Saraswati as its major champion, but there was one problem that anyone who was other to the Hindus, okay, there were three categories who were considered as the other of Hindus by Arya Samajists or by Dayanand Saraswati and his followers. Those were the Muslims, the Christians, okay, and the Mughals, etc. So they were considered as, even I guess not the six. So they were considered as the other, like they were considered as if they were equally the enemy of Hindus as were the Britishers, and that is where the problem started, because they alienated a lot of Indian population while radically championing the cause for Vedas and a cause for greater India. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is it clear? So this was the third, okay. Let's go to the fourth one. Come on. See, in the reading that I have circulated, you have around 8 different varieties of responses, or 8 different varieties of socio-religious organizations or religious-oriented discourses that that were born during the India's colonial struggle. I am not going to do all the 8, okay? Because somehow you'll figure out that those will come under one aspect or the other of the 4 that I'm putting in front of you. समझ में आ रहा है? So for example, Gandhi. So we can incorporate Gandhi somewhere, or we don't need to incorporate Gandhi anywhere. Okay, but these 4 are the major responses to British rule and the major focal points of giving rise to 4 different kinds of movements, among which 3 are kind of socio-religious movements. And this 4th is very important. I guess one of the most important is the one that I am going to give you. Yeah. In most of you might not even agree. I would like if someone among you would not agree that this 4th one is a socio-religious organization. Come on, tell me the 4th one.
Sir, I think
yeah.
the 4th one was that some religious-based organization believed a certain number of Western culture, like education system, like rationalism, like this, but they believe that these values cannot be applied in India.
Okay. So then what did they do? So this is part of the 3rd one. So you are talking about Vivekananda, okay? Ramakrishna Mission. So these 2 go together. We'll go into detail. I'm not right now going into detail of these. Don't think that we are done with Arya Samaj. We are done with everything. Most probably in tomorrow's lecture, we'll deal with them one by one. And we'll read tomorrow. Come on, tell me the 4th one. Arey, बहुत आसान है. Shall I give you a hint?
Sir, is it Mahatma Phule and Satyashodhak Samaj?
Yeah, Bhakti has become too, क्या बोलते हैं इसको, smart. Yeah. So what did they do?
So they discarded the religious practices which were practiced by the Brahmins and all, and they promoted rationality. They took help of the British.
So here, nice, Bhakti. Someone else? Someone else wants to add? Kira, you want to add?
Sir, actually, I don't know if it's connected or not, but the reading that I read, Making India Wala, it described 2 different things that were happening when it came to the national struggle. One was where the upper caste educated Indians were, kind of writing in English, and they were making very powerful statements, and it impacted a lot. It also described this thing where there was this simultaneous thing that was going on, that the people from the lower oppressed castes, they actually had a different dynamic with the British. So the British played a very different role when it came to the upper caste people and when it came to the oppressed, caste, the lower caste people, if I may say that. And probably this is an aspect of that. I feel that the oppressed caste had to face probably more tyranny from the upper caste people than from the British colonizers. So this may be related to what Bhakti was saying. Like it's not a concrete thing; it's an abstract thing into which what she said may fit.
Yeah, you are right. So what can this fourth one be then? See, if I go back into this, one is complete acceptance. Okay, it's like accept the West in toto. It started, but it had its it like ended within no time. There were no takers. Like, we are going to it tomorrow very briefly, Young Bengal movement, because it's not that important for our case. Second is acceptance, but a reform within. That is the Arya Samaj. Okay. So they accept it, but ask that we need to do a reform within. Okay. And for that reform, we don't need the West. We can do it ourselves. And you have Ram Mohan Roy as a textbook example of this second group of social religious organizations, and it is Brahmo Samaj. Third is aggressive. And see the term aggressive cultural tradition. They were aggressive regarding India's past, and they argued that no, India also has something greater to offer, be it in matters of spirituality only, but you cannot say that spirituality is something bad. Okay, India has had something different to offer, and that's of equal importance. Okay, and we cannot see the West as saying that it is nothing, okay, or it is to be trashed. Rather, it's a treasure that we need to protect, that we need to propagate, and that we need to go back to. If we are to look for some sort of response, some sort of a proper response to the British aggression or the British colonial impact, okay, then there's the fourth one, isn't it? And you have Dayanand Saraswati and Vivekananda. Dayanand Saraswati started Arya Samaj, okay, and that is the social religious organization that we'll be dealing with. And Swami Vivekananda started is part of the Ramakrishna Ashram or Ramakrishna Mission, okay, and we may deal with that too. And what is the fourth one? What will we call it? So what did Phule do? What did?
So can it be rejection of tradition then?
See, I would have told you that it will be rejection, but ultimately, when we go to Ambedkar, then Ambedkar converts to Buddhism. So he, as far as the Indian tradition is concerned, from a wider angle, not from the angle that we are dealing with from the third perspective. So Ambedkar didn't repudiate Indian tradition completely. Are you getting it?
Sir, in the reading.
But sir, from Phule's perspective.
Yeah, Phule repudiated. Like, Phule was completely repudiating the Indian tradition. So what can we call this group? Like if we group Ambedkar and Phule together?
Sir, so in the reading which you provided there, the term they have used is dissent. Cultural dissent.
Dissent is also a good term. Yeah. So what can the term be? What can the proper term be? Sometimes we have to use our own terms, isn't it? We cannot go with, see, because the reading we have Phule. I think the reading doesn't imply to Ambedkar, isn't it? So they can use repudiation, but since like we are just clubbing two different people together, so we have to think of something, isn't it?
Sir, can it be anti-Brahminical thinking? Probably, like the like opposing Brahminical thinking, in a way.
Yeah.
Since we are clubbing Phule and Ambedkar together.
Yeah. So what were both of these? What was the position of both of these as far as a particular aspect of Indian tradition is concerned? Critical is to lose a term.
Elimination of the oppressive practices.
No, they wanted to eliminate. Elimination was their purpose. But like, what was their position? Like, what was their position with respect to India's past or the Indian tradition as far as it existed? Like, it's a particular kind of relationship that they share with Indian past, isn't it? समझ में आ रहा है कि तुम लोग को लग रहा है मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ?
Sir, we are understanding, but we are not getting the word.
हिंदी में बोल दो. ऐसा नहीं है that the term that I am going to give will be covering everything. समझ में आ रहा है? It's not going to be a very proper term. It's just for us to understand or to like थोड़ा दिमाग में रखने के लिए कि हाँ कुछ इस तरीके का कर रहे हैं वो. That's it. That they are trying to do, like this is the vantage point from which they are perceiving or observing or engaging with the Indian tradition. This is the vantage point of their engagement. What about this? What have I written?
Averse to Indian tradition.
What does being averse mean?
So to put it very simply, they were against it. They were repulsed by whatever was, the mainstream Indian tradition, which was oppressive.
Sir, ours like means something like disagreement, but I remember a sentence from Gandhi that he says Western civilization is like Satan or something.
Yeah, he calls it satanic. But yes. Gandhi is not part of this group.
Yes.
So let me first name the people who can become part of this group. Ambedkar, Phule. These two at least, okay? So this is the fourth group of socio-religious, we can't call it organizations, okay? But a socio-religious movement, the fourth kind of a socio-religious movement that started in India after the arrival of British. And this group was completely averse to the Indian tradition. Why? The reason was that they felt alienated with the Indian society. Are you getting it? Why were they averse to the Indian past, or why were they averse to Indian tradition? Is because this particular group of people, they felt alienated because of the hierarchical structure of Indian society. What did they argue? What was their point and what was their position vis-a-vis religion and vis-a-vis the British occupation? Is it clear?
Yes, sir. Sir, as far as Ambedkar was concerned, he felt that the way in which Gandhi speaks about reforming our tradition, reforming whatever we already have, Ambedkar was of the opinion that we cannot in any way reformulate our tradition in such a way so as to not make it oppressive. The very structure of the Hindu religion especially is hierarchical. With respect to the caste system especially. So unless and caste according to Ambedkar is so, it is so absorbed within the Hindu religion that there is no way in which you can actually abolish it completely, and then still preserve something substantial in the name of Hinduism.
Yeah. So, since like we'll be dealing properly with these particular group of people tomorrow, but as a sort of preamble to what is going to come, is that if we pick up Phule, okay, what Phule tried to argue, in a more generic sense, is that we need to educate. Western education is the only means to get rid of this certain alienation, etc., etc. Like this is Phule, okay. But Ambedkar's position was more nuanced. समझ में आ रहा है? What Ambedkar, on the other hand, did is, and why I am putting him in the basket of being part of the socio-religious movements, is Ambedkar, rather than going ahead with the West and differing from the other groups, is Ambedkar talks about is it right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
समझ में आ रहा है? How many among you have read Ambedkar?
Not his direct readings, but secondary, tertiary readings.
Sir, I haven't read him extensively, but I have read Annihilation of Caste complete.
This time we'll read some interesting parts of Ambedkar as well. Okay, so Ambedkar talks of multiple Indian traditions. Okay, so now look at the difference. Okay, Ram Mohan Roy, he founds Brahmo Samaj, and in order to get rid of the social evils that the British considered as negative as far as Indian society is concerned, he goes to a particular tradition, and within that particular tradition, which is the Hindu tradition, as far as India's past is concerned, figures a solution. Right?
Yes, sir.
Then
Yes,
there is
sir.
another group, Dayanand Saraswati. They say that it is only as far as the Vedic tradition is concerned that we have to take care of, because the Vedas are infallible. And if we want to get things right, so we have to look at everything from the perspective of Vedas. Okay, they went ahead with their purpose of finding a response and finding a solution to different problems while getting into the interpretation of Vedas only. For example, they tried to figure out a solution to untouchability, okay, from on the basis of Vedas itself. So it is only about one great tradition, and that's what gives rise to the trajectory and narrative of Greater India. Ambedkar differs from these both. Okay, and Ambedkar and the tradition to which Ambedkar belongs says that no, India does not just have one dominant tradition to offer. Rather, India has multiple traditions to offer. And if we have to find solutions to the problems that we have been having within the Indian societies as far as its past and present is concerned, so we need to go and do a post-mortem, okay, and do a kind of a dissection of all these multiple Indian traditions in order to figure out that which of these Indian traditions is going to be of use for a future or for a normative imagination of India, or for a normative imagination of what modern India is going to be. समझ में आ रहा है? Is it making sense? तुमको लग रहा है कि मैं बकबक ही कर रहा हूँ?
No,
Sir,
sir,
it's
it is
making
clear.
sense.
So that is the reason that Ambedkar did a study of, okay, within Indian, he did a study of Buddhism, he did a study of Sikhism, he did a study of Hinduism, and he did a study of Jainism. And at the end, he chose Buddhism because he has his own reasons that Buddhism among these is the one important tradition that could possibly have a role to play so that the alienation and the problems that the lower castes, or as far as his term is concerned, depressed classes of Indian society have been suffering, will end or will be annihilated. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, uh, the last leg of today's lecture. Into the details of these socio-religious movements, okay, and their the way in which they carve their responses, okay, we figure out that there are at least 3 points where which they all share. Number one, which I began with, is religion is central to all. Is it? Is religion central to all the responses that they carve out?
Yes, sir.
What is the second one? What is the second commonality?
Language?
Huh?
Language?
Yeah, most of them wrote in English, so that's not that a kind of commonality that would like to put here. But we need to remember that most of them used English as the medium of communication. Come on, religion is central. Second one,
Caste?
caste is uh, maybe at least part of two, the fourth group and the third group. Did you say past or caste?
I said caste, sir.
No, no, no. Caste is part of some of them. Some of them are not even concerned with caste. You are right, like, but it's not fitting the categorization. Like when we talk of these socio-religious movements, so we figure out that religion is the central element to all. Okay, like you pick up Ambedkar, you'll see religion. You pick up Phule, you will see religion. You pick up Dayanand Saraswati, you will see religion. Okay, you pick up Ram Mohan Roy, you will see religion.
So, feeling of nationalism or patriotism.
Yeah, that can be there. Like what kind? Like we'll put it more like differently. Uh, Imagination. We'll say normative national imagination. Third, Ira,
Sir, I may be wrong, but I feel that at least in a very, like, it may be in a limited sense, but accepting at least that the West is bringing up certain things that really are well worth
yeah,
taking.
you are on it. You are on it. You are on it. But we need to figure out. Like I like when you people speak. See, when I was a student like you, I was not even as articulate as you people are. Okay. So what happens is that don't feel shy in my class. No one should feel shy in my class, even if you say bullshit. Okay, because that's what I am here for. I will listen to it. Okay. So you are on it. So just fine tune it a bit.
Sir, I
That is
think
something, everyone will be having that in the back of our minds, but nobody will be like thinking that we have to put it here. But that's something which we need to put here as far as remembering this lecture is concerned, है ना? वो blood points होते हैं ना, these are blood points. Okay, 3 blood points जहां से आपको फुर करके ये सारा समझ में आ जाएगा.
Sir, I think they put the religion in the center, but also they felt since they had many religions, Islam, Buddhism, Hinduism, like that, but they feel there is a need of conversion, and that conversion.
That's another group. We are not dealing with that because that's not a socio-religious movement as far as the Indian side is concerned. Okay, so we may deal with that tomorrow. Okay, what I'm saying is that I have talked about 4 groups here at least. So let's leave the first group. Let's leave the Young Bengal movement. So I have talked about 3 groups. Okay, 3 kinds of socio-religious movements.
Yes, sir.
So as far as these 3 kinds of socio-religious movements are concerned, so let me write it here. Where is the text box? Yeah. 3 kinds of socio-religious movements. Okay. Number 1, Brahmo Samaj. Number 2, Arya Samaj. Number 3. So averse to past. They didn't figure out any what would we call they didn't make any samaj. So, but let's call them dissent with the past or averse to the past. So this is Ambedkar, etc. So in these 3, what we figure out, as I wrote here, is that religion is central to all. Is religion central to all, Najmuddin? These 3?
Yes, sir.
Do all offer us a normative national imagination?
Oh, yes, sir.
What is the 3rd one? And since like it's already 10:53, let me give you a hint. All these 3 were born out of a particular context. वही मैंने कहा ना, ये हम लोग के बैक ऑफ माइंड में होगा, लेकिन हम लोग को याद नहीं आएगा कि ये लिखना पड़ेगा. Before the arrival of British, none of these socio-religious movements were there. So what is common to these socio-religious movements is that all of these were formed, okay, when the dialectic between the British and the Indian past or the Indian tradition started to happen. समझ में आ रहा है?
Can we say, sir, that the 3rd point, since we are trying to put it in our own terms, can be that the one thing common to all is that they all are reactions to the European concept of modernization?
Yeah. See, let me put it here. Reactions, or more better term will be responses. Okay. Reaction is knee-jerk, isn't it? These were not knee-jerk
Yes,
movements.
sir. Yes, sir.
Responses to European
European idea of modernization?
European ideas or European aggression or European imperialism. Because this was the context, like all these socio-religious movements were born only when the British arrived. Before the British arrival, nothing was there. समझ में आ रहा है? Are you getting it?
Yes, sir.
Before the arrival of British, nothing was there. So this is something that is really important for us to keep in mind. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
May, did you get anything from today?
Yes, sir, just something.
Strang, did you get something? I guess somewhere, I don't know, she's sleeping, I guess. So is it that you are finding these classes interesting? Are you getting something new, or it's just that you know everything and I'm just vomiting things here? Be honest.
Sir, I'm enjoying our classes a lot because even like looking at the syllabus, I'm so happy that like we don't get to study a lot of these thinkers academically. We know about them, but we don't know their actual work because we don't study them in the mainstream. So I'm enjoying our classes.
Okay, is everybody happy with the way these classes are taking place, or you want me to change things a bit?
Sir,
Sir,
actually,
Najmuddin,
Yeah.
go ahead.
okay. So actually, I'm really enjoying because we are living in countries which is hugely affected by colonization, and
Yeah.
we arise in this culture. So everything is very interesting and very, it is very in dire need to be studied.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, Bhakti.
Yes, sir. So there are usually discussions which go on like how colonialism affected our art, music, stuff, and writing, literature, but never got a chance to study it in philosophy. So it is a great opportunity.
Okay. So let's hope. So now that we have just begun, so tomorrow's lecture will also be uh, on social religious organizations. Tomorrow we'll go a bit deeper into the three, um, uh, the Brahmo Samaj, the Arya Samaj, and Phule and Ambedkar. We'll just deal with these three. But today, when you go back and you have a look at syllabus, you will figure out that the thinkers, now you can put them. ये थिंकर यहाँ जाता है, विवेकानंद नंबर 1 में जाएगा, ओके, औरबिंदो इधर जाएगा, समझ में आ रहा है, अंबेडकर इधर जाएगा. So this will help you unfold the syllabus that we are going to deal with. Okay, so we'll meet tomorrow. I have already circulated Thursday's reading, for which Najmuddin is going to be the conductor of discussion. But it's not that only Najmuddin has to read that. Okay, everybody has to read that in order for us to have a very engaging discussion. Otherwise, it's impossible. Okay, we'll be having one reading as part of discussion, and that reading can even come in exam. Okay. So most probably next week I'll be giving you some work for your um, assignment. Okay. So all the best. Bhakti, you remain here. Other people can leave.
Have a good day, sir. Thank you.
Have a nice.
Bye, sir. We'll meet you at 2.
Yeah. At 2.
Okay, thank you, sir.